And Crystal, would you just update your Zoom name to have the C3 and structure? And you can all go ahead and unmute. We are at start time. We've got attendees already in the audience and piling in. I'm really excited to get this going. So without further ado, I will go ahead and make a round of introductions. I am very excited to introduce to you the panelists for the AFVentures Fellowship Deep Dive today. We are joined by Dr. Jason Rathje. He is the managing partner of AFVentures. Jason is a part of a team that implements novel initiatives to mature and transition dual-use technology ventures. Their approach is to build partnerships between commercial solution providers and Air Force problem owners and scale successful problem solution matches. AFVentures is successful if their initiatives accelerate a product market fit between the companies who are passionate about national security and the Air Force users who need the revolutionary technologies. We're also joined by Mike Slaw. Mike is often described as the entrepreneur bridging the gap between the military and tech. As the founder and CEO of Shift, he's leading a talented team building a career advancement company for members of the US military, past and present. Prior to Shift, Mike was a Navy explosive ordnance disposal officer and worked as a platoon leader, company commander, and operations officer at EOD Mobile Unit 3 in Coronado. Before the Navy, Mike co-founded ID.me, now a late-stage tech company that simplifies how individuals securely prove and share their identity online. We are also joined by Colonel Crystal Hills. She is a career Army logistician, currently serving as the Senior Supply and Logistics Officer, G4, at NATO Rapid Deployable Corps headquarters in Istanbul, Turkey. Colonel Hills was a member of Cohort 3, where she spent the fellowship embedded with Structure Capital, a venture capital firm investing in companies who strive to create zero waste by accessing underutilized assets and excess capacity like Uber, WAG, and Shift. We're also joined by Donna Horning. She is a defense professional based in Washington, D.C. She spent the last 7 years as a cyber and information operations analyst, both for private industry and the Department of Defense. In January, she'll be transitioning to a rotation at the Pentagon as a Deputy Defense Intelligence Officer for Russia, Europe, and Asia. Donna is also a member of Cohort 3, where she spent her fellowship embedded with Expanse, an enterprise cybersecurity software company empowering CISOs to discover, evaluate, mitigate their external attack surfaces. We're also joined by Lillian Warner. Captain Warner is an active duty Air Force officer currently serving as the technical lead for Kessel Run, the Red Team in Boston, Massachusetts, where she assesses software applications, computers, and networks in order to keep airmen secure as they win wars. Lillian is a member of the Cyber Cohort, where she spent her fellowship embedded with Anduril, a company building cutting-edge hardware and software products that solve complex national security challenges for America and its allies. And last but certainly not least, we're joined by Captain Sharon Rollins, who's a cyberspace officer in the United States Marine Corps, who currently assigned to Marine Corps Forces Cyberspace Command as a mission commander for a cyber operations team. Sharon was also a member of the Cyber Cohort, where she spent her fellowship embedded with a company called Synact, a comprehensive penetration testing company scaled by the world's most skilled ethical hackers in AI technology. And I am Major Forrest Underwood, your host and moderator. I spent 12 years on active duty flying C-130s and conducting special operations around the globe. In February this year, I was fortunate enough to join the inaugural cohort of the AFVentures Fellowship, where I was embedded with GGV Capital, a venture capital firm investing in globally minded companies like Alibaba, Square, and TikTok. So without further ado, I'd like to get started with our panelists. Jason, we met for the first time in Silicon Valley and worked together on the COVID task force. I'd like to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what stands out to you as you've watched the fellowship evolve.
Forrest, thanks again for having us on today to talk about this fellowship, which is just an incredible force multiplier for AFVentures and for AFWERX as the department looks towards better ways to partner with commercial technology providers. I mean, for us, AFWERX, when we started it in 2017, it was all about building out the network to empower airmen. And when we worked on the COVID task force together, I think that network came to light. And one of the things I like to remind people of is that we really learned about the incredible capabilities that commercial companies were already doing in response to COVID-19 relief. This was back in like January and February. So even before, all of the lockdowns and the US really mobilized for the relief missions through our AFVentures fellows. People like like you reached out to us and said, hey, we've got some incredible companies out here. They're doing some great stuff in ventilator design, for example. They think they can help. They see what's happening in Italy and in Europe and in China, and they want to be a part of the solution. And if you listened yesterday to Austin talk, she dove into how that turned into AFWERX's response to COVID-19, which then turned into the nation's response to COVID-19, and engaging with commercial technology providers and wider industry. And for us, when AFVentures, the fellowship started, it was about increasing the knowledge for our AFWERX counterparts into how to work with these companies, what these companies are doing, what is it like to be involved in these companies as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as one of the initial employees. And then, really for us, it's about, what do investors think about and look at when they're working with these types of companies? Because, AFVentures is an investor, the department is an investor in a very different way than how the private investment community thinks about working with commercial technology companies, hyper growth companies. And it's been a blind spot for the department for quite some time. And I think, the work that the team has done over the last 2 years has really helped to shine a light on that. And this fellowship has done an incredible job of bringing in the people like that you're going to hear about today in this panel. And you ask me, what is the best thing about this fellowship? It's everyone who's here. It's all of these individuals from across the DoD, not just the Air Force, but in Space Force, but across the DoD, to help expand knowledge, capacity, and engagement with where the source of innovation is coming from in this nation. R&D spending is happening outside the DoD fence line. And if we don't get ahead of it, if we don't have our women and men in arms engaging with where innovation is happening, as Dr. Roper likes to say, in the innovation battlefield, then we're going to continue to lose ground. And so I think this fellowship not only has a big part to play with AFVentures and AFWERX, but really all of national defense. And I think you're going to be talking a little bit more about that today. So I won't jump the gun too much, but just again, thanks for having us on and having an opportunity to talk about the impact of this panel on the impact of the fellowship on the DoD.
Thanks, Jason. That's a powerful call to action, and we're incredibly appreciative for what you and Dr. Roper and the AFVentures team have done to enable this fellowship. Mike, it's been quite a wild ride this past year for everybody. Shift has definitely played a role in building the vibrant VC ecosystem that's surrounding Accelerate this year. What are you most proud of, and how do you expect to build on this year's progress going forward?
I appreciate it, Forrest. It's an honor to be here. Not just an honor, I mean, I'm so proud to be here and to see the folks who are in the attendee list, a lot of familiar names. And then, of course, just, literally none of it would have been possible without the tremendous support of the fellows who I consider to be trailblazers, the folks who participated in year one. I think in year one of the program, we've either met or exceeded Jason and team's goals of getting so much closer to emerging technology investors and operators in a very, very short period of time. 42 VC firms, incubators, and startups participating. In 2021, we expect 200 plus fellows and 100 companies participating as well. And over the next 4 years, expect to have 1,000 emerging innovators become AFVentures fellows. And so I got a couple of slides to orient us to the AFVentures fellowships if you want me to share those now.
Please, Mike, thanks.
Let's get that screen going up, and I'll run through these really fast so we know what we're doing here. This is what it is all about. I never considered myself creative, but participating in the fellowship gives you permission to see yourself as creative, an innovator, and someone who likes to solve problems. Major Justin Poole, like you, Forrest, was part of that inaugural cohort. In his example, like all the others on the panel today, is what this is all about. I'm the founder and CEO of Shift, and I really believe that the company that we're building, the career advancement company, is important because the workforce and the technologies that enable it are changing so rapidly. The pace of this change, it's not slowing down, it's actually accelerating and getting faster. And so in the near future, as these technologies and industries are invented nearly overnight, like there's not going to be these industry experts, these traditional players. That represents an opportunity for all of us. It means that there's a huge opportunity for us to unlock if we are able to get up to speed quickly. It unlocks opportunity for our national mission, but also for our future careers as well. So everything that we do is about accelerating learning and creating relationships. Our programs at Shift are designed to increase career potential. We equip you with the knowledge, tools, relationships that current and former members of the military need to engage within the private sector. All right, how it works. Our Defense Ventures program, we believe, is just this best-in-class industry immersion for early and mid-career service members and DoD civilians. AFWERX participates in our Defense Ventures program with the AFVentures Fellowship, where fellows spend 8 weeks learning about the tech industry and 6 weeks immersing in a VC firm or a tech startup. AFWERX has just been this tremendous partner in supporting and overseeing the direction of the program to make it a success. I'm very excited that we're going to be working together to make it bigger and better over the next 4 years. And a big part of that is our alumni and how they guide and direct the future of the program as well. So, like I said, over the last year, 4 cohorts, 75 fellows, 42 companies proved that this prototype is valuable, it's effective, and next year is about scale and bringing this fellowship to even more emerging innovators in the military and even more tech companies. Here's what we see being the quick and key benefits. The program's important because it improves the Air Force. It improves the businesses who participate, but most importantly, it's changing the lives of the fellows who participate in the program. I'm excited for everyone to hear firsthand how the program's been valuable to our panelists, but let me highlight what I think are the 4 benefits that I think are just game changers for fellows who go through the AFVentures Fellowship. You build valuable connections with the private sector and within your cohort. You gain firsthand experience from industry experts. You solve real world problems. And then you bring that innovation back to the DoD in a one-to-many capacity. So I'll pause there and we'll talk about some of the future dates, and I appreciate the chance to share a little bit more today.
Thanks, Mike. That was great. I want to start off with a question for the panelists. Prior to the immersion, you're all assigned some prep work, a little bit of homework, take you back to school, get you up to speed really fast. How did that help you on day 1 when you jump right into the deep end of your immersion? Crystal, I'd like to start with you.
So the one book, we were prescribed, I think, 5 books. And the one that stood out the most to me, that allowed me to jump in with a thorough understanding of VC, was the VC Deals. And that book, when I started with Structure Capital with Jillian, every conversation we had and every experience I had with the company, I felt like it was a live example from the book. So there they talked about, basically it's about VC deals and how you approach finding a venture capitalist firm that you would like to seek funding from. So I saw that firsthand. They talked about more so the relationships because it's a long-term commitment that you're making with these firms. It was so many examples that just were elaborated, were exemplified when I started with the company. So that book definitely was valuable for me. And then I'll just pass it to someone else.
Thanks. Donna, how about you?
Sure. So I'm in complete agreement with Colonel Hills about the value of the 2 venture capital books that we were assigned. I know that I'm not the only one who was coming in with virtually zero knowledge of that topic and that industry, other than kind of what's ripped from the headlines on a daily basis. I really had no idea how the deals were structured, who the key players were, and all of that. So all that was extremely valuable for me because it was completely new information. going forward. And I'd actually already read Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 book many years ago, but it was really valuable to have that push to give it a second read right in preparation for this fellowship, because it turned out the company I was placed with, Expanse, Peter Thiel is one of their big backers. So I was able to kind of understand the culture of that company and understand the concept of 0 to 1 innovation going in, just because I'd freshly read the book.
Thanks, Anna. Sharon, coming from the Marine Corps, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. I also didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about venture capital, so those resources that were mentioned were really beneficial for me. But I think that the book that stood out to me the most and continues to stand out to me was The Kill Chain by Christian Brose. I think that it really highlights how beneficial this type of program is, because Kill Chain emphasizes how if we continue to operate as we're doing, we may find ourselves in a contested and challenging environment in a future war. And so this type of fellowship that allows DoD and industry, academia collaboration is critical, I think, in support of national security. And that's what really stood out to me.
Thanks, Sharon. Lillian, over to you.
Thanks. So The Kill Chain by Christian Brose was interesting because I ended up being partnered with Anduril, and the author is the chief strategy officer at Anduril. I like that because it helped me, get into the mindset of a company who is solving these real world challenges. But I also really liked the books on creativity that explain that in order to create new ideas, we have to gather knowledge from all sorts of disparate areas that may not initially seem relevant to the problem that we're solving. And that, they kind of kept hammering home that we can't keep solving our current challenges with yesterday's solutions.
Great point. I'd like to shift gears a little bit. And Donna, I'd like to ask you the next question. So like most fellows, you created your LinkedIn profile specifically for the fellowship. Did you have any apprehension about your social media presence, and how's it worked out for you since?
Yes, absolutely. So the short answer to this is yes, absolutely. And maybe even more so than you realized, because I found out about this fellowship through word of mouth from a colleague of mine at NASIC, who's fabulous. And she said, hey, Donna, you got to apply for this brand new program. It's really cool. I emailed her back, Barb, how can I possibly do this if I have to have a LinkedIn and a Twitter account and I've never heard of Slack? That's what I said to her. And she said, you just got to do it. We have no choice anymore. I have no way of knowing what the Air Force is doing if I'm not on LinkedIn. So I was kind of given that push off the cliff by the colleague, and sure enough, I went ahead and did it. I will say that as a member of the intelligence community, I had to dot a lot of I's and cross a lot of T's. I had to clear, of course, my entire bio that's on the AFVentures website with our Office of Corporate Communications. I put a lot of thought into what I did and didn't portray on my LinkedIn profile. I'll admit that I reevaluate practically every week if I wanted to stay up there, if I want to add or take away things. But, and there are lots of OPSEC considerations for the intelligence community in particular and the department, having people in bed in an external company that might employ foreign nationals, all of that. But ultimately, I do fall on the side that we need to push the envelope wherever we can. And for overt employees, there are not major reasons why we shouldn't be participating in programs like this with appropriate awareness and common sense, because we just can't be holed up in a skiff our entire careers with no access or awareness of, technological capabilities that everyone else is using in the outside world, right? So ultimately, I think that it was a really, really good choice. I'm really glad that Barb gave me that final push. Of course, it's only been a few months, so I can't promise that nothing bad will happen, but nothing has yet. And, just don't let that be a barrier to applying, assuming you've cleared it through your chain of command, assuming you work with your Office of Corporate Communications, whatever you need to do in your particular agency element. Make sure you take care of all of it, but don't let that be the reason you don't apply.
Yeah, and I've got to echo, we're incredibly lucky that Shift hired the LinkedIn's former head of military and veteran programs, Dan Savage, who literally wrote the book and gave us the tutorial on how to maximize and leverage LinkedIn for the fellowship. So that was incredible. Crystal, I'd like to turn it over to you for the next one. what was it like using some of the new tools, the cool tech tools like Slack and Mural and G Suite for the first time at your host firm?
So thanks, Horace. If you recall, when we started the fellowship, during my introduction, I said, I am not tech savvy. That was one of the reasons why I joined or I applied for the fellowship, because it involves technology, and I wanted to challenge myself to get better. And with the simple social media platforms, yes, it caused me to do just that. So I primarily use Slack and Mural. So with Slack, it was more of an internal thing for the cohort. And I think it was very beneficial because, as Donna stated, I also didn't have much experience with venture capital, and even with the acquisition process across DoD and how more so the Air Force was leveraging cyber. So we were able to divide Slack into different sections and different topics. So you had a focal area, and also you have just an area just for general conversation. And I can't say enough about Donut. And Donut is where you can have virtual chats. They call it a virtual coffee chat. So in short, I think Slack was the platform that I used the most and found the most benefit in for the cohort or for the fellowship. And yeah, it just allowed everyone to chime in, drop information in. If you had a question, you could come up on there, ask your question. Whoever had the expertise would chime in. Not only the benefit of it is that you can use the app, so you're always connected to it. So it doesn't matter where you're at and when you can access the information. So I found that useful. And then with Mural is a form of it helps with creativity and collaboration when you're trying to brainstorm. So I found that useful just personally when I was trying to envision an issue and then try to have it in a virtual space that I could then turn it into a presentation that I could provide to structure. So those were the primary two platforms I used.
And Crystal, don't forget, I got to jump in here. You did this from the other side of the world. And
Yes.
not only did you participate, the feedback from the general partner at the VC firm where you were hosted said you delivered incredible value and you crushed it. And she learned a tremendous amount from you. So these remote collaboration tools not only allowed you to participate in a different time zone, but you were incredibly effective on the other side of the planet. I thought that was so impressive.
And I actually thought it was perfect timing for me. A lot of people said, "Oh, you signed up for this knowing that you were going to be in Istanbul." Yes, I did. Because I am a senior leader in the Army, I would feel as if I'm neglecting something in order to fully participate in the fellowship. And so for me, I go to work, I still have my full-time job. And even if it meant setting the alarm to get up at 1 a.m. in order to get on a call with Jillian, it was totally worth it. And I said, I mean, I cannot replace the experiences that I've had. And in this virtual world we live in today, Zoom is the perfect platform just to connect just as we're doing now. And so most of our calls, they would switch her office calls to Zoom so that I could participate. And yeah, I learned so much from Jillian. She is a force in and of itself.
Yeah, it's great to have supporters like Jillian. We had our first focus cohort, the cyber cohort. And Lillian and Sharon, I'd like to turn it over to you. We've heard the term, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. What is a cybercorn, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so the cohort members learned, in the VC world that a unicorn is a term used to describe, privately held startup company with a value over 1 billion. But for us, a cyber unicorn is what it is to be a woman in military cyber, because often being a woman in the military and in cyber feels as rare as seeing a unicorn. And initially, when folks started using the term, I was kind of like a little bit like cringy, I'm not like a bright pink girly girl. But after, feeling the power of working with other military women in the cybersecurity field, specifically with Sharon, I've really embraced it because, the strength and the power is there. So I'll hand it over to Sharon, and she's going to mention like the benefits of our joint approach to innovation.
Yeah, thanks, Lillian. I completely agree. I hadn't heard the term cybercorn before either, but I love it. And, it's no secret that within cyber, whether it's in the military or industry, we're a little bit few and far between. So the opportunity within this fellowship to work with Lillian and to work with 3 other amazing female service members and women within industry, within SYNAC, was just so great. And so, any opportunity I think to get us together is just really great in support of the cyber domain. But one of the, huge takeaways for me from the fellowship was just the importance of diversity and creativity within innovation. And I think that's important when you're talking innovation for any area, but especially within tech and cyber. And SYNAC really highlighted that to me as well. But, we have such a diverse array of adversaries that think, so much differently than we do. And so anytime when we're talking about cyber and tech ideas and new tools and best practices, the more diverse and creative mindsets that we can bring together, it's just so critical. So yeah, I embraced the term cybercorn and was proud to be a part of the cyber cohort.
That's not a widely used or adopted term yet. It was coined by the OG cybercorn, Sarah Solomon, who was a part of cohort 1 with me, Air National Guard. So the fellowship's open to active duty, reserve, guard, total force, and of course, DoD civilians. So with that said, I'd like to open up another question to the panel. And Crystal, we'll start with you. During the fellowship, SHIF hosted many different events. Which was the most impactful for you?
Of course, that's a hard question. Again, I thought everything, so I'll start by saying the person who introduced me to the fellowship was CJ, and he was in the first cohort as well. And he couldn't say enough about the fireside chats. He said, if you can do anything, try to catch every last one of them. Again, being across on the other side of the world, I wasn't able to catch all, but I think every fireside chat, every panelist that we had something valuable to offer. I won't call anyone out by name, but I'll just highlight some of the things, some of the key salient points that I took away from the conversations. So first is many times we think about being a being a generalist in a lot of different areas, especially as we go further up the chain. And assume higher roles and positions. However, somebody highlighted the importance of having depth in a single area, and having the depth in a single area allows you to add that value. Having an in-depth knowledge about whatever it may be, when you either join an organization or start your own organization, you will have that level of expertise. Another thing that was reiterated over and over again, and as we know, is relationships. And relationships matter, and your reputation will last. So in the VC world, many times, if you're on the outside looking in and you don't know much about VC, you think that everybody's out to get the best deal and they don't want to share with the next person. Well, that's not so. Well, that's not what we're told, and that's not what it was said in the VC venture books, nor what I learned when paired with structure, but they actually talk to each other. So your reputation matters, your honesty matters, and relationships matter overall. So I think I'll just stop with those 2 things as takeaways from the numerous chats that we had. Totally worth your time.
Donna, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sitting here thinking frantically because practically every talk comes to mind. We just got such amazing exposure during this fellowship, including culminating with hearing firsthand from Dr. Roper about the department's innovation strategy and what his current thinking is, and some very, very candid Q&A with him. Just an incredible opportunity. But I'm going to give a little bit of a different answer, which is that what I think about the most when I look back on the fellowship is kind of the more candid, happy hour-esque, or, just sort of creativity or vulnerability exercises that we did as a cohort, because it was so refreshing to feel like we became initiated into this community of like-minded people who all have in common that we see ourselves as a little bit of a vanguard within our organizations, that we are often pushing the envelope in various ways. That we're trying to break down silos and barriers, and it's not always easy, right? And there was instantly this sense of camaraderie and this sense that throughout my career, years from now, I could call these people up, and they would be there willing to help, and they would understand whatever I was going through at that point. So maybe a little bit different from what you were going for, but those are the things that immediately come to mind when I think of the most valuable aspects of the fellowship is these incredible professional contacts and our camaraderie as a cohort.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Professor Chris McPherson, who teaches the class on creativity and innovation at Princeton, who Schiff has to facilitate these courses. It's really an incredible opportunity. Sharon, over to you.
One talk in particular is hard to define, but I would say, all of the talks where we talked about the different ideas and solutions that were coming out of this fellowship, and really the return on investment that the units and the DoD and the hosts are getting from the fellowship. That was kind of always my takeaway. I think it's just like basic math when you think about the cohorts that are going on next year, and you think about, maybe 20 different military members per cohort and 8 different cohorts. I mean, just from a basic math perspective, that's 160, new ideas and solutions that the DoD and different military services wouldn't have had, without this program. And so I think that that's just so important. And that's what I kept kind of thinking back to throughout a few different talks that we had during this program. And yeah, I think that's just why this program is going to continue to be so great 5-10 years from now.
Thanks. Lillian?
So in military cyber, there aren't a lot of role models, a lot of female role models or role models that look like me. So it was awesome to meet women in tech and women in leadership. So those valuable connections we made to each other, people across the DoD, across the Air Force, and then the people that you guys brought in for us to meet and to talk to and ask questions.
Awesome, thanks. Sharon, I'd like to come back to you. You and Rob Wallace were the first 2 Marines to be fellows, truly the few of the proud. How has this joint experience been so early in your career? And do you think more Marines will participate in the future?
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. I mean, I am so grateful for this opportunity, and I'm so glad that I had Rob available, Rob Wallace, Major Infantry Marine, who had done this before me. And, this is just such a great program. I'm trying to get the word out as much as possible to the Marine Corps because, we have different missions, obviously, throughout our services. But I think when you talk about innovation, especially in regards to tech and cyber innovation, a lot of our challenges are the same. And so there's really no point in us working in, service specific silos and trying to tackle these hard problems, individually. I really think that we should be working collectively together, cross service, within industry, within academia together, so that we can reap the benefits, as a DoD collectively. So yeah, I hope that next year there are more Marines that participate. I think that there will be, and I'm just really excited that this is a joint program, and it's been such a great experience.
Thanks, Sharon. Donna, kind of a similar question to you. As a DoD civilian, how is your experience as an AFVentures fellow perceived by your leadership? And has there been any impact on your career progression?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And I think that I'm going to be answering that still months and years from now, because I was just in the fellowship September and October. How it was perceived, I think quite candidly, they had no idea what it was. Not surprising because it's a brand new program. When I first said I was going to apply for this, and it was kind of like, sure, go ahead, since you're on telework anyway. Glad you found something useful for you to do, right? You know, what I did, knowing that I'd been given this great opportunity, right, with not a whole lot of scrutiny, is I really tried my hardest to ensure that it was valuable to the Department of Defense and that I would be able to explain it to them in a way that made sense. You know, yes, this was absolutely coherent with furthering the mission while I was away doing this, right, for 8 weeks. And I think I was able to do that. I owed my division chief a big after action report when I came back. I think it was pretty well received. They were very interested that something like this existed. And it was pretty soon after I came back that I actually interviewed for this new rotation I'm going on as Deputy Defense Intel Officer for Russia, Europe, and Eurasia. My understanding is it was pretty competitive, and I'll never know what specific thing I said in the interview was that that pushed it over, but I was absolutely asked about, you know, do you have the relationships? Do you have the ability to do the outreach? Do you have the institutional knowledge, the bureaucratic understanding to be a success at the Pentagon? And I absolutely did talk about that I had all this new knowledge of the rapidly expanding DoD innovation ecosystem now. Before, I would have only been able to talk about DARPA. Now I know about AFWERX and SoftWorks and CyberWorks and DIU and all these new organizations. And I have relationships there, you know, where I can pick up the phone and call, and you never know. It could have been that this was one of the more compelling aspects of the interview to them. Certainly it was exactly in line with what they were looking for and what they asked for. So hopefully that's kind of a harbinger for future DoD civilians, you know, that they will find opportunities to make this meet the mission and show to their superiors how they're going to be a more effective officer as a result of having participated.
Great answer, Donna. And Crystal, I'd like to ask you from an Army perspective, especially as an 06, you've been through myriad training and courses throughout your career. How would you rate this fellowship compared to those experiences?
It's top notch, hands down. It's life changing in the sense that the relationships that you make while on active duty, the knowledge that you gain in terms of how commercial or corporate America functions and thinks, and how that relates to how the DoD thinks. And it actually feels as if you've gained the final check of approval, the stamp of approval, not just from an external perspective, but internally. Many times we question our knowledge and skills and capabilities and how it stacks up, matches up, how it adds value, not only to our organizations, but would we be value added in a corporate or commercial organization? Again, this week, the last 2 weeks, I've been in an exercise, and it is our final exercise. We get external evaluators that come in to ensure that we know exactly our job and that we are doing it correctly. So this fellowship for me felt like a final check, a stamp of approval to say, Crystal, you know, and you have the skills to be value added in any organization that you step into. And I know that, Mike, it was your intent to have military for us, not only to gain a confidence in the skills and the connections to step out when we leave the service with the right prerequisites, but also to inform commercial corporate industry that the military personnel or DoD personnel have these valuable skills that you could leverage to take your organization to the next step. So I would say I've done, again, I've been, a lot of training, but this one is different in the sense that it's the personal value that's added to your life and also what you bring back to your organization. And I spread the word. So I have 17 people that work under me now. I've already sent them the text, hey, please feel free to join in. I sent them the link, and I consistently talk about what I've learned and just the value of the fellowship. And yeah, artificial intelligence is the next the next cohort, right? And I said, I was just thinking about it. If I had an opportunity, I definitely want to know about venture capital. I definitely need to strengthen my knowledge of tech and cyber, but AI, wow, so what you're doing right now is the future. It's the future. Tech is the future. And as you stated, Mike, when you gave the intro, or no, it was Jason, 90% of tech is in the commercial sector. So we have to find a way to bridge the gap and bring it into DoD dual use tech. So you're on the right path, we're on the right path, and we can help make that happen.
Hey, I just got to jump in here. I mean, hearing all of these stories is just, it's awesome. I mean, I didn't know how to spell VC when I moved out to California in 2016. So I was exactly in these same shoes. And I don't think I met one person who had a military background that was actually in VC. Now you look at the current investment landscape, and I can't throw a rock without hitting somebody who's got military experience that's actually in a fund or managing a company or an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley and the other amazing venture capital hubs across the US. And so, hearing the validation that, is really effective for you, I think, one of the other things that I've seen and Shift has done a phenomenal job in is, utilizing their underlying technology to bring in the right folks like you to not only make sure you're more empowered and can engage and leverage it for the department, but you're shifting the culture, the private investment culture as well, and the valuable feedback that they get and how they think about these things. And we get AFVentures gets the benefits from both sides of this. So this is, fantastic for us. And so I just, it warms my heart. And certainly it's, I think, just an incredible story of how effective this program has been. So just thank you all for your comments today.
Lillian, I want to make sure you get a chance to share your perspective from Kessel Run. How do you think the Ventures Fellowship has impacted your experience?
Thanks. So I was a very bold LT. I was the one running around doing projects. People would say, that's not going to work. And I'm like, yeah, let me show you. But, the wear of time kind of made me a little bit more, I don't think we can actually do this thing, but, you go ahead, LT. And, as a captain, I feel like I kind of lost a little bit of my spark. So I think the AFVentures Fellowship gave me a chance to think deeply about the problems we faced and really recharge. When I was at Anduril, I was charged with helping with looking at attack modeling, attack surface reduction, adversary emulation efforts. And my takeaway from that and from working with my home unit, Kessel Run, is that we need to normalize, encourage, and maybe even require our partners to report vulnerabilities. My home unit, Kessel Run, just finished up a bug bounty program. And so I've kind of been re-energized with, passion to help internal units and external partners and companies feel comfortable reporting that, hey, we found this many bugs by bug bounty. We found this many vulnerabilities by internal testing. Because everybody who builds hardware and software is going to have vulnerabilities. So it's ridiculous to pretend like they don't exist and suppress good response and remediation processes. So I hope, and what I'm going to be, looking forward in the future to doing is helping more companies like Anduril and like Kessel Run, test their networks and applications and make sure they're doing it early and often and feel comfortable and rewarded for doing so.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. I would like to open up a last question to the panel before we offer closing comments to Jason and Mike. So Crystal, we'll start with you. Going all the way back to the beginning, what were some of the misconceptions that you thought you made that you were a little bit worried about, or that you thought the host may have? And then, by the end, where were you with your host, and what were you most proud of?
I think apprehension. So I think just so worried about the tech piece of it, because again, I didn't think I was tech savvy at all. However, I would tell anyone, tech isn't just the hard technical skills that are involved with it. It's also soft skills that surround what they do, and just be confident in your ability to adapt and to learn. And by the end though, but it's so with Jillian, it's just a different experience. And it wasn't about tech, and it wasn't just about VC, because the lingo for VC is very specific for VC, and reading 1-2 books doesn't give it to you all. You won't have it all, unless that's just your forte. But it was more soft skills that I learned from Jillian. So many times we credit the hard skills, but it's more of the soft skills. And I also know the further up you go, the higher the position, soft skills really matter more than those hard skills. So the negotiation skills and strategic communication skills, those things were the biggest takeaway. And in my current environment, a multinational environment where communication matters, and how you say it, the body language that goes along with it, and just taking time to understand an individual in order to communicate effectively. Some of the skills I learned from Jillian also accentuated my skills in those areas to be successful here.
Thanks, Crystal. Donna, 30 seconds, please. Over to you.
Sure. So before I knew anything at all about the fellowship, I was under the misconception that people in Silicon Valley really didn't want to work with the military. And I sort of feared that the whole fellowship was based on shaky premises, or there were going to be some awkward interactions or something like that. But I found that to not be the case. And then very quickly, just to second what Crystal said, as a woman in cyber, I also had somehow talked myself into the idea that I wasn't technical and was going to not have very much to contribute to a cybersecurity startup. And instead, 2 of my 3 capstone projects end up being helping them come up with a conception for a new technical capability and doing some tactical level threat hunting on tools I'd never used before. So just on a personal level, and I hope that this happens to many other people, is that you kind of walk away from these fellowships with this confidence where it's like, I'm not going to call myself not a technical person ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon, closing comment?
Yeah, I mean, ditto to everything that was just said. I was focused on trying to bring back solutions to the Marine Corps, and I was just so impressed, just as an example with SYNAC and their crowdsourced approach to security testing. So that's one of the things I'm going to try to bring back to the Marine Corps, is incorporating more pen testing in support of critical systems. I think that it was kind of highlighted to me during the program. We focus a lot on IT cybersecurity, I think across all services, but as the domain continues to change within cyber, we now have this OT side as well. And so that's really an area I think that industry can help us, because it's a problem of scaling for us. We just can't keep pace with everything by ourselves. So OT cybersecurity it's a great way that industry can help us.
Lillian, last one. I want to make sure Mike's got enough time to put the last slide up.
I'll be short. So in some other Air Force units I've been in, they are not similar to industry at all. But for me, the kind of wow, the kind of cool moment was seeing the correlation, how close Kessel Run was to what Anduril, is doing. And that we're not so far away. So it was a nice pat on the back moment of okay, Kessel Run's doing well. The Air Force, has got a good direction there. Made me proud to be from Kessel Run.
We are all incredibly proud. Well, Mike, I'd love to turn it over to you for closing comments.
I'm proud of everybody. This is just like Jason said, I got to jump in. All right, folks. I'm not saying it's now or never, but the February cohort applications are closing December 31st. Happy New Year. Share this with your people. Share this with your colleagues. We are modifying our commercial matching technology to make sure that the cohorts that we bring together are from incredibly diverse backgrounds, but they share the same goals of helping us win as a nation in the future and making our national mission more secure and to accelerate our adoption of emerging technologies. So we've got 4 big sessions running in 2021, and we've got just an incredible amount of host partners who are really excited to participate. We've heard a lot of stories today around the ways that this fellowship is changing the participants' lives. But I think if you look at a lot of the venture capitalists who are donating their $10,000 an hour time to participate in Accelerate, a lot of those people, their first cross-section to the defense, innovation, military community is through this program. And so one of the ways that they have engaged is to come back and give back and participate in this program. And they get tremendous benefit on their side as well. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share more. Our site is at just shift.org/DVP. You can learn more there. You can talk to the chatbot. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can email me at mike@shift.org. We'd love to have you in the 2021 programs. Take care of your people and tell them to participate and support that chain of command recommendation when it comes through.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And thanks to all the panelists for joining today, taking time out of your busy schedules. This is an incredible story and it's so important to tell. I know we're at time here. Jason, any closing comments or last thoughts from you?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to the people that'll change the way that we work with technology moving forward. The tech is fantastic. The R&D is amazing. At the end of the day, what's going to move the needle for the country moving forward is the people, investing in the people, making sure that they have the opportunity to engage where they need to engage to do an incredible job. And I'm so grateful to Mike, the Shift team, to all of the folks who have joined the fellowship over these last 4 cohorts. And I'm so excited to see what happens next year with 8 cohorts. I can't push that enough. You know, we're going to have I can only imagine, what 5 years later looks like, and how much traction and engagement we have generated through this program. So just thank you, and thank you, Forrest, for putting together such a fantastic panel. It was great just to be a part of it and listen to everyone's stories. So well done.
Yeah, I can confidently say the future looks bright. And although this is the end of the panel, it is just the beginning of the fellowship. So I really encourage you all, please go to the website, sign up. You can get on the email list to get notifications for updates. It's an exciting time to be a part of AFVentures, and I really appreciate everybody for dialing in. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care.